here is the New York justice system.
Yeah, Brett, you know what? Think about that. If you live in New York, that's pretty much primarily Democratic, and you're on that jury, and you're the one person that thinks this is not a fair trial, you're going to let Donald Trump off. I would be worried for that person's safety and their job. How do we protect these jurors? I know that they're saying they're not going to release their names. They're each going to have a number, and only the teams, the lawyers will know the names of the jurors. But how good is our government at protecting those names from being leaked?
Not very good at all. If there's one thing that is very difficult to protect, it is the identity of multiple individuals. This is 12 individuals, that are going to be on this jury. Some are going to want to talk and will be able to talk. And, a lot of due diligence by those trying to find out who they are and what they decided is going to be a factor.
But, Brett, do you worry about the president's legal team running out of challenges in New York? I mean, that should be a real concern when he's selecting this jury, right? I mean, it's for any defendant, right?
No, that's right, Lawrence. I mean, they get depending on the cases in New York, you get between 10 to 15 challenges where you can pull somebody off just because you don't think they're the kind of juror that you want. You obviously can't pull somebody off based on any protected factor, race or gender or the like, but you can pull them off for their political leanings, and then they can pull people off for bias. And so that the lawyer's challenge right now is to ask the kind of questions that reveal bias, because if they can do that, then the judge removes that individual, and you can save those challenges to make sure that you have the jury that you want.
Here's one thing. You forget about presidential candidate and electoral politics. The also thing is, this has strained the president's relationship with Melania. These are the types of issues that he does not want to bring up again. That's been in the rearview mirror. You don't want to bring up any of that Access Hollywood stuff. They're going to be bringing up that she had a press conference the day before the Access Hollywood tape came out. They're going to be talking about things that the president has no interest in talking about. And that's another reason why he wanted this whole thing delayed. This doesn't work for him personally. It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it will take its toll. But think about this. This judge has already indicated he's going to be, politically leaning on this case and make decisions that, make all of us scratch our heads. He will make decisions on evidence and what evidence will come in. And my guess is he's going to side with the government quite often. The more he does that, getting into information that is certainly uncomfortable personally for Trump, but the more he does that, he's establishing a better basis for their appeal if he is convicted.
Brett, I have a kind of a nerdy legal question that I just don't understand because I didn't go to law school and I did not learn to be a liar. So how is it even possible that a local prosecutor is using a federal statute to go after somebody in a local courtroom? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad question. There's many of us that are scratching our head, but in essence, what they're saying is you committed a federal crime. And in the state of New York, if you commit a crime, we have another crime that we can bring based on your commission of that federal felony. The problem is you don't have a federal felony. You also don't have a government, the Justice Department, who was willing to bring that case.
Brett, I'm curious. What you were talking about, the judge is going to have to make a lot of decisions on what type of evidence is brought into the courtroom. And we know Michael Cohen is their star witness, and he has all these prior statements. Now, of course, the defense can bring that up in court. But the question is, do you think the judge is going to allow the video? Because it's one thing if the jury gets to see the video of the doublespeak.
It is admissible. The rules of evidence will, should allow that in. You're given great latitude to try to discredit a witness and to show that witness both has motivation to lie and a history of lying. And so if that is not allowed, a real big issue on appeal in this case.
Right. So this is the Manhattan. So Alvin Bragg did not specify the other crime in Trump's indictment. But as Sin says, the evidence shows his actions were meant to conceal state and federal campaign finance and tax crimes. What could the other crime be, and why weren't they required to tell the defense what they're being charged with?
Great questions. So first and foremost, the other crime, the only one that they point that really seems apparent in this case is this allegation that he committed a federal campaign violation. And the crime then is hiding that for purposes of their state felony that they're bringing. But keep in mind, this is why it's so difficult for Alvin Bragg. He has to try to convey at this point. It's easy with a grand jury. He could hide all those facts, Brian. He could just present the hearsay and get that jury to return an indictment. But now he has to actually unfold what is that other crime, and they have to have enough sufficient detail, and it has to be sufficient to show that crime occurred.
Right.
This is a very difficult case.
Yeah, that's why they say in a grand jury, the defense doesn't get to speak. That's why they say you can indict a ham sandwich in a grand jury.
That's right.
And most of them, 99% of the time, they are indicted. So now it moves on to this process. So if you're just joining us, we're watching Donald Trump. He's heading down the FDR, the highway along the East River, heading down to the courtroom for the hush money trial. Jury selection starts today. But how, Brett, can this happen in America? Are there not any safeguards, any protections for American people to protect all of us from politics in the courtroom?
Well, sadly, I think, Ainsley, what people are seeing in what's happening to President Trump, they're seeing what millions of Americans have already realized and have been impacted when a prosecutor wields that power and uses their discretion, abuses their discretion. It has unbelievable impact on the community, on the family, on homes. And it has been happening for years. We've increased the number of crimes. Under Reagan, there were several thousand, criminal statutes. There are now over 300,000 federal criminal statutes that can be used by prosecutors. When you do that, and then you inject politics and allow them to go after their enemies, you have an almost untouchable government agency that can wield power without any accountability.
So, Brett, the question is, most defense attorneys tell their clients they got to be quiet, especially when the trial is getting ready to start as well. And now you got a trial that is going to be ongoing as they selected a jury today. But you got a person that's on trial that's also running for president. What do you tell your client in a situation like that?
Well, I think one, we all know, very difficult for client management purposes, very difficult client in this case, right? He's going to talk, but I would be imploring him to talk about other things, to let the lawyers talk about this case, let the court, do what it's going to do. The American people see what these prosecutors are doing, and I would try to focus on his other messaging that he can go out and talk about other than this case.
So when you look about assembling this jury, knowing the challenges that the defense has and what the prosecution hopes for, can you tell us what it's like? How many challenges can you have? And do you wheel and deal and say, if you give me 6, I'll give you 3? I mean, how do you do this?
No, the reality is it's set by statute. You're going to be given 10 to 15 peremptory challenges, and then you can have challenges for bias. And you have unlimited challenges for bias. But that's why the questioning, the voir dire, as it's called, the questioning of the jury pool, individuals that you ask questions to, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel about, Republicans? What's your impression of Democrats? You're going to be asking all these kind of questions to understand what is the potential bias in an individual. And then you're going to implore this judge to remove someone that you think you've sufficiently shown is politically biased. If you can do that, then the judge removes them, and you can still maintain your challenges, which will allow you to remove those 10 to 15 individuals.